It is 7 a.m. on a beautiful Monday morning, and we are here, your perfect day starters. Good morning. Welcome to the Morning Brief. I'm Kayode Okikiodu.
And I'm Jeffrey Uzong. I hope you had a beautiful weekend, and it promises to be a good week ahead. We hope that it stays that way. Because sometimes when you make these promises, you can never be sure what's coming. But that's what we hope for.
We can promise from our end to ensure that we give you the very best of conversations, reports, angles, investigations, and the rest. So from our end, it's okay to promise.
Okay, from my end, the promise is to the effect that whatever is happening, we'll let you know. Good, bad, and the ugly. That's our responsibility.
Absolutely.
Okay. Gentleman of the press, right?
How was your weekend, Jeffrey?
Weekend was great. A couple of things. But the one that I thought the weekend would just be as smiley, as beautiful as it was, because two things had happened. I was happy to the effect that the new associates were, reason prevailed that they could not hold their what we call rally in Bayelsa State.
So you need to help people understand who the new associates are.
Yes, amazing one we get associates.
That's N-E-W,
new, yeah. So there's this furor about them organizing a rally to honor the FCT minister and the president for some of the things he's done for Bayelsa. But I see it as, what do you call it now, grassroots mobilization for Nyesom Wike, maybe by extension for the president. Anyway, perhaps those are the ripple effect. But the government of Bayelsa State has said, we don't want any of that in our state, given what's going on in River State. But for the record, everybody has a right to organize and associate and rally whatever they want to do, wherever they want in Nigeria. So it's within their constitutional right. But perhaps the government was worried about what's going on in neighboring River State, and Nyesom Wike, being a key figure in what is playing out in River State, doesn't want all of that in their state. So reason prevailed, and they said no. They are shifting it. I don't think they suspended it. I understand perhaps they shifted it to another date. But on the other hand, to the NBA, I respect what they've done. They've also moved their is it annual general meeting now to Enugu State from River State. They said the government that is operating in River State is not known to law, is unconstitutional. Holding that conference in River State is going to be like endorsing illegality and unconstitutionality. So they are moving that conference from River State to Enugu. They had a NEC meeting. So the NBA conference is going to now hold in Enugu State, no longer in River State. And I think I agree with them because they are a body of lawyers, members of the bar. If the president has overstretched his powers by putting an unconstitutional sole administrator, which is not known to our law, if they go and hold it there, it's going to be an issue. So depending when the Supreme Court makes a decision. But the third thing, Kayode, is that that video we sent, that was sent to, we saw on the platform, it's still disturbing me when I can't call him a gentleman. For if not I was on TV, I would have used a very terrible word on the guy flogging a young boy for whatever reason. I don't know. I don't know whether you've seen that video. I don't know how to contextualize this. I don't know, is it an imaginary school? What exactly was that?
It looks like it, and for obvious reasons, we can't show you that video because it is very disturbing, very, very disturbing. It shows that man flogging the child in the most brutal manner. So we can't show you that video, but it's something we're tracking that should not happen. And now that it has happened, we'll ensure that the right thing is done by way of reporting it and putting pressure on the authorities. Jeffrey, that video really messed me up. So aside that, two things pop up for me. Today, the PDP governors will be meeting in Ibadan, the Oyo State capital, and for obvious reasons, they will be speaking to what is playing out in River State, we expect. But also they'll be deciding some issues for the People's Democratic Party, the opposition in Nigeria. Now, the pamphlet or the creative that was put out had the picture of Governor Fubara amongst them, but doing a video across the venue, and you know, you could see the frames of the different governors, and I was waiting for the frame of the River State governor who's now suspended, but I didn't see it, and a lot of people raised issues. So maybe it was omitted, or it was not shown, or it's not even there. We'll wait to see if he will be attending today. And Jeffrey, the second one is quite interesting. This one has been playing out for decades, actually, and it's a U.S. court directing the FBI and the Drug Enforcement Agency to basically release records on President Tinubu's probe. So wait to see how that plays out. Even though the presidency says nothing new will come out, but hey, it's important to see that and be sure that indeed there is nothing new. So those are two things, Jeffrey, that I've been tracking and I'm looking forward to today and in the coming days.
Fantastic. So absolutely, those are the things we'll be tracking for you. And I wish we can, I pray before the end of the show we get the name of the state or the local government where that guy was flogging that little child. So we'll report them appropriately. And that person has to go to jail. There's no, if you see that video, not everybody can look at that video. Anyway, so let's tell you what we'll be doing today on the program. The first, our port of call, the very first, will have to be with, a conversation on what is trending. Eedris Abdulkareem had released a song criticizing the government, sending a message to the president's son, to his father, the president, to say, look, whatever it is you're doing is not working, Nigerians are suffering. Well, the NBC has actually sanctioned that song, saying it should not enjoy any airplay on television, on radio, and on TV, and that has generated controversy. Wole Soyinka, the Nobel laureate, has said, don't do this again. We're going to be talking with Eedris Abdulkareem on the program today.
And we'll talk health. The world health, or rather world, is more fast-paced than ever before, but we must not forget to prioritize our health. So we'll be speaking with a medical doctor as we dissect the growing need for individuals to focus on, guess what, their mental and physical well-being.
Okay, we'll also be bringing you our morning chapters where we spotlight When Time Runs Out, a book by Olunloyo Adiola, which highlights women's reproductive health. It's going to be what we'll be capturing today for you on the program as well.
And we head to the skies, but still right here in our studio. It's a very lovely combination. We have a chat with Captain Idris Abdulkareem, a pilot dedicated his time to inspiring the youth and giving back to the society. So buckle up.
Okay, besides that, we'll talk a bit more of politics, where a former minority leader of the House of Representatives, Mr. Farouk Adamu-Aliyu, will be bringing his own perspective to issues around the polity, from politics to security and all whatnot, right here on the program.
And we talk about your gadgets, right? We always stare at them, even almost more than we stare at human beings, Jeffrey. So we'll be looking at how to manage your eye health through proper screen usage. It's something we take for granted, right? But we'll talk about it with our tech advisor, Akim Bitoye.
And today in Women in Business, and this edition, we'll be highlighting the work of Ehi Ogbebo, a woman trailblazing. I've been a trailblazer in the interior design space. She does luxury stuff. We'll talk to her and how she navigates that part that is mostly dominated by men.
And that's it. We're getting started right away with the front pages. How do they reflect the happenings in the country? Let's start off with the Guardian newspaper. The Guardian newspaper is the very first we'll be looking at on the show this morning. By the way, you'd see different angles, right? The way the papers capture the stories. But the Guardian leads with high cost of living, braces for wage renegotiation. That's the Guardian newspaper. Labor laments high cost of living, braces for wage renegotiation. That's how the Guardian leads this morning, Jeffrey. So this was always going to be the case. I mean, 70,000 naira. And I always say that if you were earning 30,000 naira, let's say 8 years ago, and you're earning, let's say 100,000 naira now, you're obviously earning less than you were earning then if you convert your money to dollars. So when they say wage increment, yes, it's great to see it in naira, but you realize that a lot of the things we consume are imported, right? A lot of things we use are imported. So whether you like it or not, you still have to convert it one way or the other. So 70,000 is not.
So that is Labour's new way of telling the government, whatever policy you're putting in place, well, we may not have a problem, but we know how it affects us. So get ready for some wage negotiation. So perhaps should we be bracing up for another industrial action? We do not know. But let's just keep our gunpowders dry for now.
But I really want to know what would the appropriate minimum wage be. Is it 150,000 naira now? Is it 100,000? Let us know what you think, by the way. You can just hit us on our email, themorningbrief@channelstv.com. But Do you think the appropriate minimum wage should be?
Maybe they could negotiate for $100. But let's get to another. Nigerian News Direct. Why Buhari, this is Nigerian News Direct now. Why Buhari Tinubu bond remains unshaken, a nightmare for opposition. That's coming from the presidency. Says relationship, a foundation for future party unity and progress. So some sort of political visit has been happening by both the ruling party and a coalition of the opposition parties heading to Kaduna this time, not Daura, to see former President Muhammadu Buhari. So, you know, the politics is being to build up ahead of 2027. So it's only natural because, in my view, the biggest political influence in Nigeria in the north right now is Muhammadu Buhari. I don't think there's any other person who is as influential as he is politically. We may assess his presidency and say he maybe did a terrible job, according to how young people would describe it. Maybe they didn't do the work he's supposed to do. That's why the present government is complaining of the heavy lifting they have to do. But when it comes to how to influence the direction of how the North will have to go in the next presidential election, you can't discountenance Muhammadu Buhari, which is why those visits are happening. So, one of the things I like about politics and the politicians is that everybody is confident until the result is out. So let's wait and see. So now everybody is saying he's with us. Well, politicians, they're interesting.
And just to be clear, this is the same man, because we had the PDP or the opposition possible coalition. I don't even know how to describe that arrangement. Is it the coalition in the making or the potential coalition? This is the same man that was vilified. His government was vilified for 8 years when he was there, right? But you had the PDP going to say hello to him. Even the APC, as you said, I mean, his CBN governor is still in detention over the work done during his tenure. But hey, as you said, politicians will always be politicians. But you, the people, should, as I say, wise up. But take a look at the Nigerian Tribune. Nigerian Tribune is the next. Well, we chew on that one. And this is how Supreme Court rulings landed PDP LP in further crisis. And I hope you see the irony in all of that. You know, the court is meant to give you clear directives, interpret the law. So for you who have been bickering or quarreling will know that this is where to go. But take a look at the explainers. Abure remains in charge, LP spokesman, as Apapa Ninadi lay claims. So we see Mr. Apapa back. Not like he went anywhere, but there you go. PDP in limbo as members await decision on Anyanwu Ude. That's according to Okoye. Our internal mechanisms will decide way forward. Ologun Agba. So it just lends credence to that big headline. Supreme Court ruling. It's not really giving clarity to these parties, and that is the irony that we're dealing with, the dilemma we're dealing with right now.
Well, I say it didn't give clarity. So Supreme Court is simply saying, party is supreme. Go and look at your laws and follow your laws. So everybody is now claiming they have an understanding of what the law is. Labour Party says, Abure. The faction is saying, Nenadi. Another faction is saying, Lamidi Apapa has evolved yet again. And there's one more that is not popular. You're going to see that one maybe very soon. And then the PDP about Anyanwu and Ude Okoye is just... So this is the problem of leaving political parties to money bags and people with war chests and all of that. This conundrum, I think sometimes the Supreme Court may have to review their decision and step in because... Anyway, the APC looks like they are stable now because they're in power.
Well, it's been said that the APC is stable. I think it was Chief Body George and said, well, what you see is just someone holding the APC.
So
exactly. So if you do anyhow,
you see anyhow.
So everybody just falls in line because there's a lot to enjoy in that sense.
Yeah,
so when you're eating, you don't talk, you don't bicker at all.
Yeah. They say. As I said, the APC has not been tested. So when they are tested, whenever they leave power, we'll know how united they are. Okay. Blueprint newspaper is leading with FG flags of 777 billion naira. Abuja, Kaduna, Zaria, Abuja, Kaduna, Zaria, Kano Road project, and I think this is a massive project that we're all looking forward to. Not highly benefiting from Tinubu's infrastructure revolution, Uba Sani, that's the governor of Kaduna. President Kaduna government deserves 8 years. Umai is always campaigning. I think they should make Umai the what do you call it now? Campaign manager.
Campaign director.
Yes, campaign director of the APC in this next election.
We'll see.
He's always campaigning.
We'll see.
He's either saying God told him, or there's nothing you will say that he will not say himself. Nyesom Wike, Senator Godswill Akpabio, always in the business of campaigning.
There you go. They'll tell you that.
We're nominating you for DG.
Every politician is always campaigning. But take a look at the Abuja Inquirer, and now that you talk about the FCT minister, it's quite interesting how the Abuja Inquirer leads this morning. You see, IGR, FCT outperforms whole Northwest states, rivals Lagos for 2025. Eyes 700 billion naira.
I like this kind of challenge.
Yeah, but hey, it's the FCT, right? So you expect that the FCT should pull its weight, particularly with all of the activities that go on in the FCT. So it's good to see, and I like this kind of competition. This is what we should be seeing.
I like that.
From states. Let us challenge ourselves and say, well, I did 1 trillion last year, I'm going to do 1.5, let's see what you do. And the other one says, you know what, without killing businesses.
Yes.
Without killing business.
And in addition to that, Kyle, one of the places that governors steal money the most, allegedly, is the IGR. I'm telling you.
Said allegedly.
I'm telling you. So their state, you would never know their exact IGR because the governors are using it to run whatever it is they are running. And they know I'm saying is the truth. So let's add allegedly before they say. But we know. Wow. IGR is where it happens.
There you go. Mm-hmm. That's a look at it. The front pages for real now.
Some of the governors. So let's contextualize it.
And we've had these cases taken to court. And so this is something that there's proof for. There have been governors taken to court over this. We'll take a quick break now. When we return, we have the man in the eye of a storm, Eedris Abdulkareem, joining us on a trending segment as we walk through the recent happenings. Stay with us. We'll be right back. We have Nigerian singer and rapper Eedris Abdulkareem joining us on the program this morning. The embassy just made a major decision on his song, which he just did, titled Tell Your Papa, a protest song. Good morning, Eedris Abdulkareem. Welcome to the Morning Brief.
Good morning, my people. Good morning, my guy. How are you doing?
Very well. I was just listening to that song on one of the streaming platforms and seeing the traction it has gotten. At least on one of them, it's gotten thousands of plays, and I imagine for others. And I just wonder, how are you receiving all of this? For some people, they've known you for decades, and we'll get into your journey. But this latest twist in your story, you're not new to, back and forth with government. It's almost like what you do, right? What your music is about. But how are you handling this with the embassy's decision, Professor Wole Soyinka's statement, and the reactions from Nigerians?
Well, first and foremost, I was inspired by Sheyi Tinubu, to record this song, I saw a video in Kebbi State where he was campaigning and defending his father, even though 2027 is just 2 years away from here. He keeps saying that they're coming for my father, they're coming for my father. My father is the greatest president. My father is the greatest president, But Sheyi, I'm sorry, I defer perfect in silence, than when he speaks. I will advise Sheyi to hand over the microphone, to the MC next time, He lacks charisma and composure to express himself in telling the truth about the true economic situation under his father's government, Tinubu is the best father to Sheyi Tinubu, but he's the worst president ever to Nigerians, He has empowered Sheyi Tinubu as a son, but Nigerian youths don't have job talk less of food to eat. You know, Nigerian youth can't travel by road because of kidnapping. You know, so I asked Tinubu to try and travel by road without the security. Let him feel the pains of ordinary Nigerians. You know, Nigerian youth are just asking for basics. You know, electricity, security, enabling economic policy, job creation, not palliatives. You know, so I keep hearing people saying that, why should I attack Sheikh Tinubu personally? No, Sheikh came on the national TV to talk to us, Nigerians. So it is a responsibility for me, you know, to answer him and let him know the true situation of the country. You know, if he doesn't want anybody to talk to him back, he should have just kept quiet. You know, so it's my responsibility and responsibility of Nigeria to let you know that his opinion is opinion, not the reality that is happening in Nigeria. You know, President Tinubu lied about fuel subsidy. He lied about economy recovery. He lied about fixing the naira. He lied about fighting corruption. You know, and that is exactly what Tell Your Papa is all about. And for NBC to ban it, you know, it really shows that, you know, we are living in a country where, you know, law and the judiciary has been definitely compromised.
All right,
where the ordinary Nigerians...
Mr. Abdulkareem, if I may come in, just to follow up on what you're saying. Okay, so why, in your view, do you... Because I think a lot of people can resonate with the happenings in the country. You amplify it with your artistry as to what is going on in the country. I know you talked about security, you talked about corruption, you talked about subsidy, you talked about a range of issues in that particular song and in that video. But what do you think made NBC to insist that that song should not be played on air, on whether it's on television or on radio? Is it that you said, tell your papa? Because papa contextually is different. So if you say, how your papa day? Is salutation or courtesy. If you say your papa, it's like a curse. So what has NBC told? Have you reached out to NBC? Why are you banning it? Why are you banning a song that I'm just expressing myself? Yeah, go ahead.
My brother, it's just hypocrisy. And that's the problem we have in Nigeria. It's basically just hypocrisy. You know what I mean? There's nothing wrong in the song. I mean, if you listen to the song properly, I did not insult President Tinubu. I was just, you know, answering Sheikh Tinubu, you know, the question that he asked us and the punchline that he threw at us in Kebbi State, saying that the father, you know, is the best president. For goodness sake, my brother, you know, let's just, and let me break it down, yeah? Listen to this list. This is an important failure of President Tinubu. You know, Tinubu increased price of petroleum by 300% after announcing the withdrawal of subsidy. Prices of goods keep increasing. CBN keep raising interest rates to combat inflation, but they keep failing. You know, 3, hunger. You know, the level of hunger being experienced, you know, has broken a record. You know, the promises, you know, of palliative, you know, didn't address the situation, you know, sadly. 4, reduction of purchasing power. You know, the high inflation has affected purchasing power. You know, people can't buy anything. Their salary is 17,000 naira, and that is not enough to pay for electricity bill in 1 month.
Right.
You know, don't forget that this father has increased electricity tariff, and we still don't have light. 5, insecurity. Terrorists are kidnapping hundreds of people in a single operation without being challenged by the security agencies. You know, farmers can't go back to farm anymore, you know, and the president and the government is busy bringing in GMO seeds to come and feed Nigerians, let Nigeria eat cancer and die, instead of sending their security agents to go out there and eradicate these terrorists.
Right.
You know, 6.
So, Mr. Abdulkareem, pardon me.
Automatically affected the cost of transportation.
Right, so the connection is a bit sketchy, so we're not able to get what you're
Is it the
saying.
valuation of Naira you want to talk about?
Mr. Abdulkareem, if you can hear us, because of a connection, let's just try to... Yes, so let me add this to it. When you talked about the subsidy removal, what was going to happen when he said subsidy would be removed, naturally the prices will go up. It happened during Jonathan's tenure, which they protested against, by the way. So that's what subsidy removal is all about. The interest rate, pardon me just a second. The interest rate bit is decided by the CBN's Monetary Policy Committee. So it's a group of people who decide amongst themselves, and they vote and say, should we increase it or reduce it? Well, they will say they are independent of the presidency. But the other point you raised, absolutely understood about insecurity, inflation, and the rest. But I want you to speak to this because your history goes all the way back. You sang Nigeria Jaga Jaga, and I remember then President Obasanjo had a grouse against you. In fact, some say that that contributed to what happened to your career then. And then you had a run-in with now Aviation Minister, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, Festus Keyamo, who had said you had tried to reach out to him and all of that, and that's why you did that, the song that you did. And now you do this song about Tinubu's government. Tell us, you have experienced all of the administrations in Nigeria. Are you now saying that the Obasanjo tenure was even better than this Tinubu tenure, or the Buhari tenure is better than this Tinubu's tenure? How do you evaluate those different administrations, Mr. Abdulkareem?
It was during Obasanjo that corruption was definitely, given back to. You know what I mean? I remember he wanted to go for third time, and a lot of the legislators were bribed, but even at that, they refused him, to succeed third time. So Obasanjo implemented corruption in Nigeria. That's number one. But you cannot compare Obasanjo government with Tinubu's government. In fact, at the moment, Tinubu government make us look so bad, making us feeling like Buhari, who is the worst president, even did better than his government. Unfortunately, that's the way I see it. For goodness sake, this is 24 years later, after I recorded Nigeria Jaga Jaga. My brother, Nigeria is still Jaga Jaga. Why? Because Nigerians are great people, intelligent people, very hardworking people. They are not asking for much. Or the only problem we have is bad leadership. I don't know if there is a cause that makes these leaders, when they get to position, they just forget Nigerians totally, and they think about themselves and their family. These guys don't care about Nigerians at all. So I have been campaigning. My responsibility is to use my music to talk about the social ills in the country. Don't forget that not everybody would want to use their music to do this kind of job. So it is my job. I love what I'm doing.
Right.
So if your father did well, definitely I will record a song to appreciate your dad. But at the moment, your dad is not doing well. People are dying. People are hungry. People are jumping into the lagoon. So my brother, this is 24 years later. Nigeria is still Jaga Jaga. Do you know what I wish? I want to wake up in the morning one day and find out that Nigeria is now a better country, and Nigeria Jaga Jaga is no more relevant, that the song is no more relevant. I'll be gladly happy and so happy. But unfortunately, this song will continue to be relevant because Nigeria is still Jaga Jaga. Well, President Tinubu promised us, it didn't show that he truly cared about Nigerians. I mean, immediately you got to the office, the first thing you did was, your legislature had to buy bulletproof car to all legislators, bought private jets, keep borrowing money from IMF, they keep telling him about the anti-people policy that is implemented on Nigerians.
It will be lovely.
They come back.
It will be lovely to see that day come where you would do another song. I would say Nigeria, great people, great nation, a beautiful country. But while we wait and look forward to that, we have to thank you for your time. I understand that there's even a dance for that song, the Jaga Jaga dance. If we had your video, we'll have tried to see the dance. But we need to thank you. We've been speaking with Mr. Eedris Abdulkareem, Nigerian singer and rapper. There you go. Goes all the way back to You Don't Bash My Car.
Thank you.
You know that song between you and Tony Tetwila, and then Tinubu was in that video as well, or someone like him. But thank you very much for your time once again. We'll
Thank you
take
so
a
much.
quick break.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
When we return, we talk more issues. We still have health on the plate. We still have core political issues. We'll take a moment, and when we return, we'll have more for you. Stay with us.
Welcome back. Away from the issues around protest music and censorship by regulators, let's talk about your health, your reproductive health, and focus on women. We're being joined on the program by an author, the author of the book you just saw a moment ago, When Time Runs Out. Also a social and behavioral change expert, Adiola Olunloyo, joining us from Regina in Canada. Thank you so much for joining us, Adiola. If you can hear me, maybe you help us unmute your device so we can hear you as well, Adiola. Can you hear us? Okay. We'll try and fix that, maybe it's network or whatever it is that is affecting that connection with us. But I want to speak to her about different layers in terms of balance, in terms of life, in terms of reproductive health, and all of those elements all packed in one. So it's a very important conversation for men and women, because when we talk about reproductive health, sometimes we go to look at women alone. Men, let me repeat that, men first and then women. Ms. Adiola, can you hear us now?
Hello, can you hear me?
We can hear you. So can you hear us?
Okay. Thank you for having me. Good morning.
Good morning. Okay, let's get straight to it. You know, I'm just curious about the title of your book. Before we get to several other things we'll discuss on the program with you. When Time Runs Out. What's this really all about?
About the book?
Yes, please.
Okay. So I wrote the book after my experience in 2022. I had a personal experience where, as a single lady, I was 42 at the time in 2022. Due to a medical condition, I decided that I wanted to have a child. And by the time I got to the hospital to try to freeze my eggs, I was told that I was too late at 42. And it shocked me because I've been working for many years in the area of sexual and reproductive health. And I know a lot about prevention of pregnancy. I know a lot about having safe deliveries. And this is what I do for a living in terms of educating and empowering women to do that. But I realized that I had inadequate knowledge and information about fertility preservation. Of course, I didn't think that at that time I would be single at 42, but I always thought that you can, decide to become a mother at any age as long as you're healthy, you look good, you take care of yourself and all of that. So based on that experience, I began to dig deeper, to talk to fertility experts, interact with women who are dealing with infertility, and I realized that there's a huge gap in terms of knowledge about what women know about the timeline, the limited timeline of their fertility, and the unaffordable and inaccessible services around fertility care that we have in our society. So I wrote When Time Runs Out to serve as a call to action, not just for women, but for everyone who cares about women, either as a policymaker, as a parent, as a community member, as a religious leader, for all of us to take another look about the modern world that we are in now, where many women like me are delaying motherhood, but they're losing their chances of becoming biological mothers if adequate steps are not taken to support them in their journey.
So let's get to some of those gaps you identified, especially the knowledge gap. And I would also like if you also expand the conversation to men as well, because I don't think sometimes society is very fair to women. As soon as there is an issue around giving birth, making children, the first people look at is women, and a couple of the times.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you. Can you say that again, please?
Can you hear me now?
Now I can hear you.
Okay, I was saying that let's begin by closing that knowledge gap that you found out. So you educate us on what you found out to be the knowledge gap that this book and generally your knowledge is trying to bring to the fore. But I'm saying that also expand the conversation to men, because I think there's a lot of injustice when it comes to reproductive health. Everybody looks at the women first, and a couple of the times the men are the problem.
Okay, well, I would say that there's no injustice to men in this situation, because biologically, men have a longer longevity of fertility than women. And I'll tell you why. One of the knowledge gaps that I learned is that a woman's peak period or peak season for reproducing is when she's in her 20s. By the time a woman clocks 30, her fertility starts to decline. By the time she's 35, the quality and quantity of her eggs significantly starts to drop. But if you take a 35-year-old man, he doesn't have that challenge, because men continue to reproduce sperm for as long as possible if they don't have any medical condition or issues. But for a woman from 35, egg quality and quantity starts to dip, right? So for women, I think that there should be like an emergency call, much more than for men at the same age, if you put them in the same age group. So for me, that was shocking. I didn't know that until I was 42, right? And at 42, my doctor was telling me, you're already too late, right? And I just felt that there's a growing population of women like me in Nigeria and actually all over the world, because now women are aspiring more in terms of getting educated, pursuing careers, contributing meaningfully to the society. But not many are adequately informed about how to balance, that desire of pursuing their careers and also becoming mothers whenever it is that they are ready.
And I think your book really tackles a very difficult subject. I don't know how you were able to do it, but based on your experience naturally, I know that you brought that to
I'm sorry,
bear.
I'm having challenges hearing you again.
Oh dear, this is not the best time to not hear us. Is it better now?
Now, okay, I can hear you now.
Okay, I was saying that I like that your book tackles a very difficult subject, something a lot of people do not talk about for obvious reasons anyway. But I want to know a little bit more about your story, because this is also a personal story. The book is a very powerful book, I must say. You went through 3 unsuccessful IVF cycles at 42. Maybe you tell us how that ended. But there are women who tell you, well, I don't really have options anyway. I am busy with work. I have not found the right man. And then the other options available are frowned at in the society. I tell you, well, no, it has to be a man. You cannot go through the other processes. So maybe tell us more about your story, how it is going now, and what options are available to women really, and the cultural context.
Okay, so at the time when I had to go for IVF at 42, I was single, right? And I had to consider that because I was dealing with fibroids and adenomyosis. And I'd been dealing with fibroid for 13 years, and I was having very bad, it really affected the quality of my life. And when I got an additional diagnosis of adenomyosis, I just said to myself, you know what, I can't live like this anymore. I want to have a hysterectomy, right, which is to take out my womb. And that was when it dawned on me, like, okay, wait, before you take out your womb, how about try to be a mother? Because I always desired to be a mother, even though I was not married. And that was what led me down the path of IVF. Unfortunately, I went through 3 cycles of IVF, but it failed. And it failed because my eggs, I was told, were not viable. They didn't get enough eggs, and the few that they got were not viable enough to pass through the fertilization stage to become a baby. And that was devastating for me. Devastating. I didn't have enough emotional and mental support. I was full of regrets because, remember, I said I've worked in the sexual and reproductive health space for a long time. and I had access, I had information, I was empowered, I was capable of preserving my eggs if I had been told 10 years before, for instance. I had a medical doctor who was managing my fibroids for 8 years. Not once did he say, okay, you're approaching 35. Have you thought about freezing your eggs? That offer was not given to me. What everybody was ringing in my ear was, go and get married, go and get married. And of course, I would have loved to get married if I found a suitable partner.
Right.
And that's part of the limitation that I am frustrated with in our society. The only narrow path that the society pushes women to is to get married. But look around you now. Even those who are getting married are getting out of the marriage if they are not careful to select the right partner. So those who are choosing not to rush into marriage until they find a suitable partner should not feel punished or isolated, right? Because now we're having a lot of women, like I said, who are empowered, who are educated, who are exposed. So what we need to ensure we give to support women is, the first is knowledge. Many women are still ignorant. You know, we're also in a deeply religious society. For me, I was like, I'll deal with motherhood whenever I get married. It's not a problem. But I didn't really consciously realize there's a biological limitation. I can marry at 50, but I can't be a mother at 50 naturally, you see? So we need to begin to give adequate information, factual information, for women to be able to make informed decisions, to understand as you're moving up your age, you need to be proactive. Get your fertility assessment done. Understand what you're up against if you're not married at 35. Have the option of preserving your fertility if you can afford it and you have access to it, you know, and even take care of yourself. I delayed for 13 years living with fibroid because I was afraid, or because they were just telling me, oh, don't bother until you are going to have children. But I had to choose my quality of life first, because I was bleeding for 12 days. I was in pain. I was unhappy. So I got to the point where I said, you know what, I can't live like this. I was working in the UN, and it was a highly demanding job that required a lot of travel. So every time I have to travel and I'm on my period, it's hellish. It's a lot of anguish, you know. So I got to the point where I said, you know what, I want to choose a good quality of life above me waiting for society to validate whether I become a mother or not. I want to choose life first. So there are several lessons for women to learn from my experience. Don't wait till you are in crisis before you take charge of your fertility. Every woman should know first and foremost what their fertility assessment is and take care of whatever can obstruct their fertility whenever it is that they're ready. And then for those who are not getting partners to get married in their 20s or in their 30s, you have the option also to preserve your fertility by freezing your eggs, so that if you do marry later, you have like a health insurance. It's not a guarantee, it's not 100% guarantee, but trust me, it's worthy of investing. When you do need it, that's when you really value it.
So in closing, how would you advise, I know you live in Canada, you travel around because of the kind of work you do, but let's bring it home here. We have doctors, we have health facilities, although it's not as premium as those in the global north. If you were to look uniquely into our space and what you would advise, especially for career women who just want to get ahead with their career as much as possible, besides freezing their eggs and all of that, what regular checks and all of that do they need to do to be sure they're in very good condition and don't have to deal with some of this situation?
I'm sorry, can you say that question again? I didn't hear you properly.
Oh dear.
Ask again, please.
I'm just saying that, speak to Nigerian women this time, you know, this is Global South. You know the challenges we face here. And a lot of women want to be successful at the same time, you know, balance family life. So speak to them in specific with the hindsight of the kind of medical services we have in our country.
First, I would like to say I'm Nigerian, because I live in Canada now doesn't make me not aligned with what the realities of our Nigerian women are. But I know that there are services in terms of diagnostic tests that are available for women to explore. But the first thing is, even having a gynecologist, having access to a gynecologist to understand what's going on your status. For instance, I find that even living with fibroids is something that people think it's normal. Like people say, as a woman, you should endure, endure until you have children. Don't go under the knife, or don't have surgery until you have your children. But the truth is, enduring that pain and prolonging a medical condition that can be taken out or taken care of is not supposed to be the norm. So I would say, if a woman's menstrual cycle is being disrupted, for instance, if your menstrual period is extended longer than 5 days, if you are in chronic pain, or if you are not even seeing your period, those could be signs of PCOS or anything else. So if your menstrual cycle as a woman is not within the normal range of 3 to 5 days, please have it checked out by a gynecologist, right? Don't rely on herbs, don't rely on hearsays. Go to a healthcare provider that is experienced and understands your female anatomy to be able to get to the root of what is the problem, right? And when you're diagnosed, treat it immediately before it becomes a chronic problem later on for fertility.
I think that's a good place, Uncle Almost. Thank you so much. I think the point is well noted, and I'm sure people will look at your book to even know even further on what to do when they have these situations, or to prepare ahead of time. Adiola Lawyer is the author of When Time Runs Out, and social and behavioral change expert, joining us from Canada. Thank you so much, ma'am, for coming on the program.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right, we'll take a quick break now. When we come back, we're still talking about health, healthy living this time, mental and physical health. A doctor will be joining us right here on the program in our Lagos studios. Join us again.
Yes, Dr. Lillian Ochai joins us, resident doctor at Luth, PR Association of Public Health Physicians of Nigeria, Lagos branch. Dr. Ochai, good morning.
Good morning. Thank you so much for having me.
It's good to have you. We want to talk about self-care.
Right.
See, there's a lot of things happening around that you sometimes forget about yourself. So you're busy with work, with family, a lot of other things, and then you forget that, hey, I matter as well.
Yeah.
So let me just channel a lot of Nigerians through myself and tell you that, doctor, I feel stressed. I've not been caring for myself as I ought to. What should I do? Because I need to have that mental and physical well-being to be able to deliver.
Right.
So doctor, how do we go about this?
Okay, thank you very much for that. Before I answer that, I would just like to say what self-care is. So it's basically an individual's ability to promote health, to prevent disease, maintain health, prevent disease, and also the ability to cope with illnesses or disabilities if they are present, without or with the support of a healthcare practitioner. So these are things that we need to do on a daily basis, like habits, things we need to do to help maintain physical, mental, emotional well-being. And just like you said, we face a lot of stress as Nigerians, a lot of things, traffic, we know what happened 2 Wednesdays back, and try telling those people to practice self-care. They spent the whole day in the traffic, so it's a lot. The insecurities, economic instability, it's a lot. But what we need to know is that we shouldn't see self-care as a luxury. It's something that is essential. It's very important, and as much as we're trying to be productive with work and other activities, if we don't pay attention to taking care of ourselves, we would end up, not being able to manage these activities. We will not be productive enough, because research also shows that people that practice self-care, are more productive, they are more creative, and they're able to manage other things. So basically, there are so many aspects to self-care, right?
What does self-care look like? So I'm picturing now.
Right.
Self-care, I head to one eatery and I buy a mala, like 4 goat meats, 6, okay, I won't say pomo now because a lot of boys. You get what I mean? That's how a lot of people picture self-care. Or they say, tonight I'm going to the bar. I just want to, drown myself and have a good time. What does self-care really look like? The right kind of self-care, that is.
Right. So, as I was saying, right, there are different aspects to self-care. There's the physical, emotional, mental, there's spiritual, there can even be a financial aspect to it. So basically, but where it starts is knowing what works for you. So there needs to be some self-awareness of your person, who you are, what you like. So things that help you to relax. Fine. You mentioned going to the bar and, drowning yourself in alcohol. That is going to be of adverse effects to your health. So obviously that would not be under practices of self-care. But things like, okay, for instance, if talking, having people around and just conversing with them helps you distress, that could work for you. There are some people that may not want to be in the company of others. They just want to be quiet in quiet space just by themselves. Take some time, to meditate, deep breathing exercises. That could work for some people. And other forms under the physical could be practicing personal hygiene, right? Other forms could be eating well, physical activities, engaging in some form of physical activities, and going to the emotional part, being emotionally aware also, knowing what your triggers are. Okay, if I go to this, will someone trigger me, trying to avoid those things. Spiritually, what your faith is, what you believe in, practicing that, taking time to meditate, to pray, things like that. And financially, having better financial plans. I mean, it's difficult. There's a lot going on, but you can still try as much as you can, okay? And then there's also the social self-care, where you take time to build healthy relationships, try to converse with people, have friends, have gatherings. It's also good to stay in touch, because humans, we need to, be around people, and that helps us to feel like we're part of something. And also just generally having self-reflection, time to breathe, to reflect, to say, okay, how far have I come? Because, as we grow older, a lot happens. Time doesn't wait for anyone. It just keeps going. You experience a loss, you have to keep going. Work happens, school happens, so much is happening at the same time, and you just have to keep going. So we have to take time to pause, to breathe, to reflect, to take time to heal.
At the end, I'm just listening to how interesting what self-care is.
Right.
But juxtapose it with people who living in Lagos. It's a crazy situation already in the country. It's double in Lagos.
Right.
Depending on where you live and what options you have. Because what the economy does to a lot of lives, which is why we scream most of the time about policy, is that it limits and reduces options. One of the best, most beautiful ways to live life is to have a bit of options. But when your options are that limited, so speak to people that really have limited options. It's not as if they don't know self-care is not important. I know a friend of mine who, where I used to work before, one day just told me, as he collected his salary, he said, I just went to the restaurant and I ate my money. Like, bills on him, all of that. So I don't think Nigerians will not appreciate this self-care issue. Everybody wants to be pampered, but their options are so limited.
Right.
There's literally limited time to breathe and just exhale. So with those kind of situations, what are they missing out in not forcing self-care one way or the other, so that we understand the dangers we're feeling? Perhaps that will inspire a change in attitude. Okay,
thank you for that. So I'll give a scenario, right? Let's take someone that he doesn't know is about to have a stroke, but maybe in some days he's going to have a stroke. But before then, he's, focusing, I need to work, I need money, my children, have to go to school, I need to keep at it because we need to eat and all that. Of course, these things are essential, but because the person is not taking time to rest, this stroke is still waiting ahead for the person, and people could end up dying, and they would not get to enjoy the benefits of all the hard work that they've been doing. So yes, it is important that we need to hustle, because it's ingrained in us already. It's a Lagos life and all that. But because of our health, there are things that are happening that you might not see, or you might, because you feel like you're okay. We don't pay attention to what our body tells us. So sometimes when we're tired, or when a person is getting sick regularly, or you need to pay attention to these things. It means you should try to take time. Like you said, Lagos, it's very difficult. So what I can say is that we can start small, right? Even if it's 5 minutes in a day, just take time. Do what will make you feel rested. If it is just breathing, silence, just talking with someone, reconnecting, anything that makes you feel relaxed or rested, can start small and try to make it consistent from there. Then also learning to say no, because sometimes you are stressed, but just because you want to keep relationships or a work thing, you just want to say yes all the time. But learning to say no, at specific times can also do a lot of good to people.
There you go. There are different narratives about Lagos.
Right.
But the irony is, it's like people like stress. Because people troop into Lagos every blessed day, and they come
for economic reasons.
For economic reasons.
Yeah,
so
sure.
Is it like people just naturally love to gravitate towards stress? Again, there are people in Lagos who have planned their lives, and their lives do not have that kind of stress because their work is close, and there are organizations that say, you don't have to come to work every time. You don't have to go through traffic. But yes or no, do we like stress as human beings?
Maybe yes and no. I'll say yes and no. So I feel also there's some cultural thing involved in that, because it's kind of like, if you're not working hard, like they need to see that you're working hard, then you are not doing anything with your life. Yeah. And so a lot of people feel like, okay, I need to be here, there, I need to be all over the place. So people can feel like you're doing something. If you're not in people's faces, it's almost like you're not really doing anything. So that's what I feel about that.
I think we also need to help ourselves,
yes,
and find, if Lagos is not working for you, Ibadan is great, Ogun State is fantastic.
And,
go up north, Oshogbo, right?
Places don't sound fun. I don't know.
They're actually fun.
They are.
Ondo State, Idonre. You go to some of these breathtaking areas. But we have to thank you so much for reminding us yet again that self-care is important. We'll be speaking with Dr. Lillian Ochai, who's a PRO, Association of Public Health Physicians of Nigeria, Lagos branch, and a resident doctor at LUF. Thank you once again.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much.
Well, we hope we've been able to arm you with the right self-care kit so you can take care of yourself. We'll go on a quick break now. When we return, we'll still have politics, we'll take to the skies, and some little more for you, so stay with us.
Welcome back. Let's talk about the state of the nation. When we talk about the state of the nation, we navigate across board, from security to politics to even the economy. We'll be joined in the program by Honorable Farouk Adamu Aliyu, former minority leader of the House of Representatives. He represented Baraninkudu Boji Federal Constituency of Jigawa State. Honorable, thank you so much for coming on the program.
Good morning, Nigeria.
Okay, I just wanted to establish, this period there has been some movement and defections and all of that. You are still a bona fide member of the APC. I want to be clear on that.
Absolutely, a very senior member of the party.
All right, fantastic. It looks like with what we're seeing playing out, because there's a lot to explain, expatiate on this particular conversation. So let's begin with party politics in the first instance. It looks like what is playing out now, we've seen what is going on in the PDP. We've seen what is going on with the Labour Party. At least those are the two leading opposition. I can talk about the NNPP as well. In one end, there's also an issue in that area at some point. It looks like the APC seems to be the stable political party as we speak. Is the APC really stable? Just because this is the ruling party, the stakes are a little bit higher if anything happens in terms of division and disagreement.
Well, APC is stable, of course, certainly more stable than other political parties in this country. And But you know, in politics, you will always have disagreements. You will always have people who will not agree with one another. But then we, as a party, I mean the APC, one, we are the ruling party, so there are more things binding us together than dividing us. So I guess that also helps the party. And unfortunately, the other parties, really, they are not doing well because, you know, there is no viable democracy without opposition. So I mean, it pains me how I see these political, I mean, the opposition parties, the way they are behaving in this country, honestly. I mean, we were once in opposition, and we did what we could to entrench democracy in this country, to oppose the government, to, you know, objective analysis of policies of government and so on, you know, for the good of all of us. But unfortunately, they are all bickering, fighting one another and so on, aligning and so on, wasting the people the time of Nigeria. And, you know, because when they are not concentrating in checking us in what we do in government, because look, no matter how good our policies are, the party in opposition is supposed to come with alternative methods or criticize what we're doing for the betterment of the country, so that people will get the best of the system. But unfortunately, in their own wisdom, they feel they will continue with infighting, which is not good for the country, not good for democracy as well.
All right, Mr. Farouk, two things I want to ask in one. But the broad question will be, in your view, because I know you are not afraid to speak your mind, what is the President Bola Tinubu administration doing wrong, in your view, as a member of your party? As you've agreed by your own statement, it can never be perfect. There's always something to do better, something to learn from. And when you talk about being critical of the government, there's a perception that this government is quite hostile to dissenting voices. And there are many instances to that effect. And they are not doing great at managing dissenting voices. Some may argue to the contrary. But in your view, what is this government doing wrong that you feel like, no, this is not our playbook? Those are some of the assertions by Nasser El-Rufai, which is why he said he left the party.
Well, you see, it's not in my place to criticize my government, really, absolutely. I mean, this is the role of the opposition. The opposition is supposed to come out with criticism of us, of what we do. I mean, I can't sit here and tell you this is what I think is not good. Of course, there are challenges in any system. I can, like, tell you, you know, when we were in the opposition, there are so many things we said, we did. We did it differently because we are not in government. But now when we're in government, we found out certain things that we had assumptions were wrong. So now these are things we're trying to do. So to me, Bola Tinubu is doing very well. To me, Bola Tinubu is doing his best. To me, that's why he's elected.
Song which the NBC clamped down on. I hope you can hear me, Mr. Farouk.
Well, maybe now I can hear you now, but before I couldn't hear you.
Pardon me. So we just had a conversation with Eedris Abdulkareem. I don't know if you caught that, a Nigerian musician whom the NBC clamped down on his song, where he was basically just venting, like the everyday Nigerian, talking about the economy, insecurity, and the rest. So when people hear you say that this government is doing well, and they look at what they say, the situation on the ground, would you say it's because, yet again, you're a member of the APC? Does that preclude you from speaking the minds of the people, at least from the experience of your people?
No, listen. I mean, first of all, I totally don't agree with the NBC. To me, they were too overzealous. To me, they didn't do well. To me, they're not doing well because what they did is certainly wrong. I mean, free speech, people are supposed to come out and criticize us. So, honestly, I hope the government will speak to them, the Minister of Information in particular, will tell them what they did is wrong. You know, I mean, he should come out and say whatever. Anybody can come out and say anything, but then there are lines that people should not cross. Simple. There are lines one shouldn't cross in trying to, you know, with your fundamental rights or freedom of speech and so on and so forth. Now, coming to the government, whether I'm not part of all the issues and so on. Of course, as a Nigerian, there are challenges. As a government also, we have challenges in governance. And just like what I told you earlier, let me give you an example. While we were in opposition, I remember very well Jonathan, when he was trying to, when he increased the price of petrol pump price. We were all over the country demonstrating against what he did. Now we know better. Now we know better that, look, the government cannot continue to subsidize petroleum products. Simple. So these are kind of things that I'm saying, you know, that while you are in opposition, there are certain things, while you're not in government, there are certain things that you don't know. But when you get in there, the reality will stare you on the face, and then you do the right thing.
But it looks like there is this growing coalition against President Bola Tinubu, particularly from the north. And we've seen this series of visits to former President Muhammadu Buhari, almost his own becoming a Mecca of sorts. So you had former Vice President, former governor who was in your party, now in the SDP, and a group of people, powerful people from the north, visiting him, and you know, they said, well, it's not for this reason and that, but you can't remove the fact that there is this growing dissension against President Bola Tinubu in the north. From where you sit, yes, from Jigawa State, have you seen this? What do you think is responsible for it? And do you think the president can withstand this coming storm?
Well, when you talk about dissenting voices from the north, this is what I call connivance of the elites. And I call on the public, the masses of this country, to start teaching us a lesson as elites. Look at all those people, so-called people against Tinubu from the northern part of the country. Let me take Nasir Rufai, for example. This was the same person who came out all over the place saying that the North shall vote for Tinubu, and that any Northerner who does not agree to vote for Tinubu is just not a good Northerner. He did everything, he abused everybody. Now, Tinubu got elected. Something happened, of course he was promised ministerial appointment, it didn't happen, whatever. All of a sudden he has moved to opposition now. So, is it about our country? Is it about the party? Or is it about self-interest? So you could see that all these people, it's their personal interest. That's why I said, look, the people need to start teaching us a lesson, the elites. Because we, the elites of this country, were one and the same. Whenever anything does not go well with you, you just start bringing the religious kite, flying the religious kite, or the ethnic kite, and so on and so forth. Now, the North gave President Bola Tinubu votes, and the North will continue to, because look, it has got nothing to do with where you come from. If in the wisdom of some of my leaders from the North feel they don't want Tinubu again, okay, let's wait for the time to come. It is not political time now, it's governance time. And they can go ahead and continue to criticize or continue to align themselves, and then when the time comes, we are also Northerners. There are Northerners that can die for Tinubu, somebody like me, and we are all proteges of Muhammadu Buhari. I, Farouk Adamu Aliyu, you know, if you are going to mention 5 people that started with President Muhammadu Buhari, I'm certainly one of them. I'm with Tinubu, Buhari is with Tinubu, and as of today, one of the most influential Northerners, or the very most influential Northerner in this country, is President Muhammadu Buhari, and he had never ever deviated from working or aligning himself with President Tinubu. So when I said we, most people that matter, that are with Buhari, would certainly work with Tinubu. And as I said, it is all a matter of self-centeredness. I mean, they have lost out. My friend, everybody is a very close friend of mine. He has lost out, and so he thinks he wants to belong. So the best way for him to do is to move to. So the best way for him to do is to move to the opposition. Well, so be it. We are waiting for them, and I just hope we'll continue to play politics clean manner. so that for the betterment of this country. And then look, at the time, when the time comes, if the people of this country, in their wisdom, they don't want President Bola Tinubu, so be it. But that does not mean because you don't want Tinubu, you will start talking nonsense about him or whatever, and so on and so forth, start saying that he doesn't like the Northerners and so on, which is not true. It is not true. My friend Nasru El-Rufai didn't know that Tinubu did not like the Northerners until now when he doesn't have an appointment. I mean, I'm a shining example of, look, if you want help this country, if you want to help democracy, you don't have to be in government. The last time I had official as a government position was in 2007. I had never stopped campaigning or speaking for President Buhari. I will never stop speaking for President Bola Tinubu. But whenever things are done wrong, we don't come on television station and start talking about what we did wrong. We go into the room, we have access, we tell the president, we tell to power, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu knows me very well. I can look at him in the face and tell him the truth. But I don't need to come to channels or any other place to say this is what he's doing that is wrong.
If I may comment, Mr. Farouk, so let's take two things in one. First, is it that he lost out? I'm talking about Nasser El-Rufai. Did he lose out or he was not carried along? So maybe you answer that question. But the more important question for me is the reality of Nigerians' quality of life under President Bola Tinubu. Life is hard. Life is difficult. Fundamentally, what used to be basic is almost now becoming a luxury. In fact, it is a luxury. Electricity, the price of food and all of that. These are the things that are important to Nigerians. Since you speak for the government, whether officially or unofficially, don't you think that this is the time? He's going to do his midterm in a few weeks. Let me just use a few weeks from now because May 29, just next month. It's time to begin to look at a way to review some of his direction and policy direction to see how Nigerians can be better. The purchasing power, we may be 200 million, but what was the purchasing power of the average Nigerian? Those are the critical issues. We could banter the big numbers. I'm familiar with economics and my background of the macroeconomics data. Oh, debt to revenue has improved. I know all of that. Our FX has improved. What do you call it now? Our reserve, although unencumbered, is about 23 billion. We know all of those big things. We can talk about it. But what is important to the man I live here and speak on the street and all of that is his quality of life before Tinubu came to power and what it is right now. That is what is important.
Okay, yeah, I totally agree with you. The quality of life is not better than before Tinubu came on board. But then what are the issues? I mean, first of all, Nigeria is not an island. Nigeria is also a part of the global community. These challenges that we find in this country are happening in all parts of the world. Now, how do we go about it? That's exactly what the government is trying to do now. Of course, there are difficulties. Of course, things are not getting better as at today. But there are some indices that, yes, certainly at the end of the tunnel, there will be light. I mean, you remember when the former president spoke about going back to the farm. People have trooped back to the farm. And things are improving gradually. Whether this is how the government wants it, certainly not. Certainly people are suffering. Certainly there are challenges. Certainly people are not happy. But then are there things that the government is doing deliberately to make this happenings? No. The government is up and about. You could see how the government is trying to control the foreign exchange. You could see how foreign investment is coming into the country. You could see how infrastructure is being done in this country. You could see how more monies are going to the states. So, but when issues come, people talk about federal government, federal government, federal government. Forgetting the fact that we also have the states. What makes the union, all of us. So certainly there are challenges in this country. Certainly there are difficulties. But just like what I said, these things, are they deliberately done to hurt the people? No. These things are done deliberately to make sure that, look, my children, our grandchildren will not be in this kind of situation in the distant future.
So you admit that life is difficult under President Tinubu's government. You admit
absolutely.
that.
Absolutely. Life, yes, life is difficult.
Right.
I do.
And you admit that Nigerians have a right to voice their displeasure without being clamped down. They can protest peacefully without being clamped down upon.
Absolutely.
But
absolutely.
It doesn't take away the fact that you...
Absolutely.
Yeah. So it doesn't take away the fact that there's still some other things that the president has done that you within his party should be able to speak to it, especially because he has a national impact. And I'll speak to the state of emergency in Rivers State. For example, you stood against, you've said that time and again, the third-term bid of former President Olusegun Obasanjo when you were in the ANPP, because for you, you didn't say it in the Constitution, and you've talked about how you rejected lots of money and all of that. And now we see a president who is doing what a lot of people have said is unconstitutional. Whether you're in the APC or the PDP or the Labour Party, the Constitution is quite clear. Why, again, is it that we don't see people from within the party coming out to speak to the Constitution, regardless of the fact that you are in the APC or not? Have you looked at that issue? Have you looked at the Constitution? Is that something that you find curious, Honorable?
Yeah, you see, it's also subjective what you're saying. That's why people need to go and get interpretation. Whether what the president did is totally, completely unconstitutional, that it's left for the courts to decide. But you see, as a president, you do not sit by and watch your country disintegrate. The political situation in Rivers certainly calls for drastic measures. Now, whether the measures taken were the right ones is left for the Rivers people to see. But I, from my position here, I think what the president did was right, honestly. To put state of emergency there so that the prime actors will sit together and know that, look, there's somebody with a big stick. That if you try to bring the roof down on all of us, somebody should tell you that, look, hey, calm down, look at it, and so on. And look, I think the people of Rivers State need to be supported by all of us. All of us, I mean the whole Nigeria, need to support them in such a way that there will be peace, because politicians are the architects of the problem in this country. And you could see, even in that River State, it is a matter of self, because it's fight between Wike and Fubara, which means if you look at it, it's like a family matter. Now, should the president sit by and allow them to continue to fight? Just like what the Attorney General said, that the government took action so that not to further bring problem in Rivers State. Because if, God forbid, that the State Assembly had gone ahead to impeach Fubara, there could be bloodshed.
Right. Mr. Farouk.
And Mr. President did this thing to ensure that, look, the issues in Rivers do not degenerate into fisticuffs.
Mr. Farouk, two things. Just as we wind down, we just have about 2 minutes to go. So we know the Supreme Court is going to make their own interpretation, but there's nothing in the Constitution that gives a role to sole administrator. All of us can agree to that. The argument here is the suspension of elected officials in terms of the president. The president has the power. 305 gives him the power to declare a state of emergency. Discretional latitude as to whether he can suspend elected officials is a different kettle of fish, which is not in the Constitution, which the Supreme Court will have to help us decide how far it can go, because Section 1, Subsection 2 of the Constitution is very clear on how Nigeria should be governed. So I would like you to speak to that as well, because at the end of the day, it's going to be a constitutional issue, which you said is subjective as far as this is concerned. We're running a federation in that sense. Else we may have to unknowingly raise dictatorship if we're not careful. So in your view, when the Constitution is not quite clear on some of these things, how far can one go in protecting the lives and property of people, in your view?
You see, I want you to also understand that, our Constitution also sometimes speaks from both sides of the cheek. like the president, yes, if you look at the Constitution, the president has no powers to do what he did in Rivers. But then if you flip the other side, you remember we had doctrine of necessity in this country. So in the wisdom of Mr. President, if he thinks doing this was the best thing, he did it, and at least there is peace in Rivers. But if the Supreme Court says, look, Mr. President, what you did is wrong, I'm sure he will quickly return to status quo.
All right, Wumos, thank you so much. It's always interesting to have you, Mr. Farouk Aliyu, but the luxury of time is what we don't have. We could keep you here for another 1 hour, but we're totally out of time. Former minority leader of the House of Representatives, representing Berenin Kudu, Buji Federal Constituency of Jigawa State. Thank you so much as well, because I know that you speak the truth as much as you can. Thank you, sir, for coming on the program.
Thank you very much.
All right, we'll take a quick break. When we come back, we'll get to the next leg of the conversation. Join us again.
Carry our devices almost everywhere we go. We're always staring at it, almost like you're looking at the love of your life. But how do we ensure that while we're staring at our devices, the health of our eye is also secure? We're joined by Mr. Akim Bitoye, a tech advisor. Good morning, Mr. Bitoye. Everybody's staring at one device or the other right now. You are staring at your device. I'm staring at mine. But it has an impact on the eye. So how do we balance this, use of technology with ensuring that we also keep our eyes healthy?
Okay, thank you for having me. Let's just go back a little bit. The baby boomers got addicted to the screen in their 70s, in their 80s. The millennials in their teenage years, you understand, but the Gen Zs and the Gen Alphas are addicted to the screen from the time they could crawl. So the more time we spend staring at these tiny little screens, the more strain it has on our eyes as time progresses. So just a few things to do to at least get health back, especially as regards to our eyes. The doctor spoke earlier about well-being. So the well-being of our eyes, which really is the gateway to our lives, is also very important. You should note that the average person, on the average, use their mobile devices or their screens for over 2 hours daily. So 2 hours, your eyes are focused on this tiny little screen, and you can't, because the content there are so engaging. But of course, a few things in there are very harmful. One of them is blue light. You'd notice if you use your phone or your mobile devices in bed, you don't fall asleep as quickly as you would without the device. That's because the blue light really sends signals to your brain to keep it awake, right? So this blue light just is a fraction of what the sun emits, because you don't see anybody falling asleep when they are out in the sun. It's usually when it's dark in the night, and that's when your brain gets the signal, oh, I need to sleep now. So this light affects us because the wavelength of the blue light is really the one that is at the top. So it prevents you from sleeping. So what are the things you need to do? Most times when you focus on the screen, you don't blink as much when you are looking at your screen. And that is very, very important. When we blink our eyes get moisture, and that's what it needs to stay healthy. But when you are looking at a tiny little screen, and because you are scrolling, you don't scroll, you keep scrolling, you don't blink as much as you would. Ideally, you blink about 20 times per minute when you are walking on the road. You blink. You don't even realize you are blinking because it's autonomous. But when you are looking at the screen, it drops down to about 5 times a minute. So your eyes become dry, and that's something that causes strain. Over time, you just notice, my eyes is paining me. Why? Because you've not been blinking a lot looking at the screen. So there's this 20-20-20 rule that every 20 minutes, you should look 20 feet away. If you are looking at the screen, your laptop, your phone, your tablet, for about 20 minutes, you should take a break, look at something 20 feet away for 20 seconds. What it does is it exercises your lenses, because when you are looking at that little screen, your lenses are in just one position. But when you're walking on the road, your eyes dart from one object to the other, and that's really what your eye eyeballs need. That's what your lenses need to exercise. Okay? These are just tiny shifts we can make in our lifestyle that can make us healthy.
I want us to reiterate the 20-20-20 bit again. So if you've stared at your device for 20 minutes, right?
20 minutes, yes.
You take a pause. Set a reminder. So you set a reminder. That's very important. Set a reminder. Again, I hope that people are able to do this. Set a reminder and then look away from that device after 20 minutes to somewhere else for 20 seconds.
Something that is about 20 feet away, just something far away from your screen that exercises your eyes for 20 seconds. You can just look around. It helps.
Right.
It really does.
I think it also explains why I have a little bit of a headache. I stared at my screen a little bit for too long last night before I went.
Not saying that you are doing well.
So talk to us more.
There's something you can do because manufacturers have also realized this happens. So there are night mode. You notice night mode or eye comfort shade on your device. If you scroll down, you go to the notification bar, you see something called eye comfort or night mode. What it does is it filters out the blue light and your screen looks a bit like sepia, just a little bit like orangish. All it does is that light is calm and gives your body the signal that, oh, okay, it's time to actually drop the screen, and it's milder on your eyes. Another thing you can do is get the blue filter glasses. Not the recommended glasses, but blue filter. All it does is it helps you because the more time you spend with the screen, the more this radiation, because we don't stare at the sun, do we? No, but we stare at our screen, and this blue light being emitted oftentimes. Yes, we spend a lot of time with these screens. We should take a break, take a pause, or even put gates in place. So the night filter or the eye comfort shade on your phone is on all smartphones created from 2010 upwards.
I promise you, Mr. Abitoye, my dark mode is on, or night mode as the case may be. The eye comfort shield is on as well. But you know, these devices just have a way of staying with you. There's a notification, there's an email to respond to, there's some work to do. Do you support those who advise cold turkey every once in a while? Just toss your device for, I don't know, as many hours as possible in a day and just leave it. Is that something we can achieve? Maybe for a full day, just do cold turkey. Is that something that can also work and is workable or doable?
For someone like you, it's not possible. You are in demand. They need you. However, if you think back to when we were in primary or secondary school, nobody had phones. But you still, somebody got in touch with you when they wanted to reach out to you. So going cold turkey may not be the answer, but limiting the time. You have DND mode on your phones now that ensures that for a certain period, no notifications, no alarm, nothing sounds. But we need the time to actually go out and touch grass. Let me use that analogy. Please, if you give your children unfettered access to mobile devices, you are doing them more harm than good. The medical practitioners have said this over and over again. The attention span these kids have are so limited these days that you call them, but they are so ingrained in Roblox, they are so ingrained in whatever it is they are playing, they are watching, because the manufacturer and the publishers of those apps, those software, made it engaging.
Right.
What they thrive on is the attention. Yes.
That's a very fantastic point, really. And when you think about it, these children are exposed at a very early age. Some under 1, you see the parents have put a device in front of them just to keep them occupied so they don't cry, so they can do their own work. So it's important to pay attention to these things. We have to thank you so much, Mr. Akínbítóyè, for reminding us what really matters. Yes, your devices might be the love of your life, but you need to pay attention to your eyes as well. Mr. Akínbítóyè, TMB Tech Advisor, thank you so much for your time on the show. Have a great day.
Have a wonderful day.
And there you have it. We hope that you pay attention to these things. But we'll take a quick break now, and I will just ask that you fasten your seatbelt, because when we return, we'll take it to the skies. Stay with us.
Welcome back. I promise you the gentleman we're about to introduce to you is quite a delight, and he's a captain flying for United Airlines, and he's been doing this for quite a while. He's Captain Idris Abdulkareem, pilot, CEO, inspiring success in Generation Next. Captain, thank you so much for coming on the program.
Thank you for having me, Mr. Sheon, right?
No, Jeffrey is my name.
Jeffrey, I'm sorry.
This is Coyote.
Yes, thank you for having me.
Fantastic. I know you're all dressed up. Like, are you flying this morning or anything?
No, I'm not. I just had to look the part.
Okay. Oh, fantastic. You know, there are so many people who wanted to be what you are. Yeah. They wanted to be captains, they wanted to fly, pilots, and all of that. It's a career path for them, but somehow it didn't work out. So let's begin to speak to this, because I know you're quite passionate about such things, inspiring people. Before we talk about your journey, because your journey is quite critical for us, which is why you're here.
Yes.
Talk to us about the people who couldn't make it to become pilots. What do you think you can say to them to encourage them first, though?
Well, it's something that bothers me as a person, and this is why I say so. Between 2017 and 2018, I did a lot of career talks in schools, high schools around here in Abuja, and universities. And you see, the kids enjoy the flow. Tell them everything about flying, the beauty of the skies and things like that. They enjoy it until you get to that point, the critical point. The question asks, okay, how much does it cost? And then when you tell them how much it costs to get flight training, everything dies down there. And it's very heartbreaking, I must tell you, because you get into a room, talk to a set of kids, get them all worked up, they are happy, right? Wow, I'm communing with a pilot. Until you get to that point, and that question comes up, how much does it cost? And everything dies down. And that deflated me as a person. And it's been like, it's been my life's work to see how can I, in a little way, assist or get those kids that are not super rich kids who also deserve a shot at what they want to be. Do you understand? So that was why this thing. Sometime last year, I took this new job, and I was given a very huge bonus. And I'm like, okay, what can I make of this? The first thought was, let's get maybe come to one of this, come to maybe Lagos, get a less privileged kid somewhere on the street, and okay, that has the interest and passion and the aptitude to become a pilot, to see, okay, maybe get sponsorship or something like that. But then the thought now came to my mind, like, okay, do you want to give someone a bottle of water or create a fountain? So I think creating a fountain means that you can reach out to not just one kid. It's not every year I'm going to be getting such bonuses. So you can reach out to not just one kid, but a lot more kids that might need that kind of support. So that was how this thing came up. I assembled a team, and I told the team from the day one that, guys, this is not a money-making thing. Everybody on the team are good by themselves. They have good jobs, so they don't need the money from here. I said, we don't have too much money, but let's set up something where we can invest this. And we spoke about two concepts. The first concept is compounding. The second concept is delayed gratification. We're members of this business, want to run a business, but we want that money to roll over many times. So we can move it from something like, say you have 10,000 naira, and roll it over a 2-year period,
right,
until you get, say, 200,000.
So that's your own way of ensuring that people are not left behind, despite the fact that they can't become pilots. But you left some questions unanswered. Don't worry, you wouldn't deflate us. How much does it cost to become a pilot?
Well,
to get training, average.
In the U.S., where I trained, it's on average about $70,000, and it could go as high as $100,000. So you can understand when I say, you mentioned that to kids, and it just deflates them.
But let's be fair, right? And I know it's sometimes hard to swallow. I listened to a comedian recently who said that he was asked to speak to children, right? And then after I spoke to them, you know the joke, right? After I spoke to them, the principal was angry that, why would you say all of that? And they asked, what did you tell them? And he said, well, I told them that not all of you will make it That's brutal, but he was trying to say that's the truth.
That's a brutal
it's unfair, right? It's sadly,
Yeah.
as much as we like to expect the best, but some of these things happen. So not everybody will become a pilot. I was looking at statistics. Perhaps the world has over 300,000 captains in total. That's compared to the millions of doctors that you have, hundreds of millions of teachers that you have. So there are some, occupations that naturally is for a select few.
Yes.
In that sense, right?
Yes.
So how are you able to pass the message across to them that, hey, I know you want to be a pilot. A lot of us wanted to be soldiers growing up, wanted to be a musician, wanted to be a rock star, this and that, but eventually life pushed you where you wanted to be. So how do you still pass that message across to them?
I'm sorry, I would never be as brutal as you were. Let me say that.
No, that is not me. I didn't say
but all we do is try to spread the message of hope.
Yeah.
Because especially when it comes to finances and things like that. Now, what we're doing with this, we actually started a fashion brand, and that fashion brand is meant to, it's everything aviation. The main market is there in the US, selling to potential aviation enthusiasts, So they pick up a shirt, and you're making them understand that for every shirt you pick up, 20% of the profit from that purchase is going towards a less privileged kid in Nigeria to start with.
That's like a captain's shirt, right?
Not a captain's shirt, just shirts that have like aviation themed designs.
Oh, I see.
And it's not just shirts. We have polos, we have track suits, we have like bomber jackets. We have all of that in the product line. So the intention is sell to people that are enthusiasts, get the money from them, and see how you can assist these kids that need the support. And I mean, you can follow through with the story on our Instagram page. We have it's called InsignNext Global. At InsignNext Global, you can check that out, see what we have done over the years and where we are going with it. And then we have a different Instagram page, which is also
it's quite inspiring to see that you're quite passionate about giving people a chance. I remember, if there's anything I will not forget about Tony Lumelu, when he's asked questions about why he does this foundation and all of that, he simply says he wants to democratize luck. Because he said, besides everything he's done, he can't take away the fact that luck played a key role. It can be interpreted in many forms and many ways. But we cannot conclude this conversation without talking about your journey. How did you get into the aviation sector to become a pilot now that you're trying to, inspire a lot more young people to get into this very, as Kayode would say, elite space? Because this is not bus conductor work, with the greatest sense of respect.
I'll say I picked the bug at age 13. I got a chance to sit in the cockpit with the pilots. My dad was a pilot.
Okay, so in Nigeria or
in Nigeria. I schooled in Sokoto, FGC. And whenever I had to go to
school, or how did they say that? Is it up school?
Pro Unitate.
There you go.
Yes. So whenever I had to go to school, sometimes if the seats are all occupied, I get the chance, and I love that. I get a chance to go forward and sit with them. It wasn't, now it's not allowed, but it was allowed back then. So you sit there, and I just thought it was cool. What they did was cool, and I liked it. And, but I had to, I'm not from a rich background.
So how were you able to afford
Well, it took time. I didn't start if I'll call a friend from my secondary school and a friend from the university and somebody I served with, they'll tell you the same thing. Idris always wanted to be a pilot.
Well, your dad was a pilot.
Well,
so in that sense,
the
people see him as successful.
There were a lot of like highs and lows and things like that.
Right.
So, yes, he was, but still, the money for flight training is a lot.
Oh, I see. So you're comparing your own your wealth in some sense to how much it costs to pay for flight training.
Yes.
Because there are different levels.
Yes.
Because I'm sure people are comparing themselves and saying these people are very rich.
Yes.
But you're comparing yourself to the flight training money.
Yes.
Oh, please go ahead.
So in winding down, how long did it take you to train?
It took
how many hours have you done so far?
Right now, I have about going on 4,000 hours flight time.
So how long did it take you to be certified? You now flew solo. Just walk us through that particular bit, because that could be an inspiring moment for a lot of people.
Okay, I like the way it's structured. First, you're going to go, you get what we call the private pilot license. And even if you don't want to be a professional, you could get that and just get your own little airplane and fly around. So the private pilot license could take about 4 months to thereabout. And then you get what we call the instrument rating. Now the difference is the private pilot license is see and avoid. You're flying with your eyes out, looking at landmarks on the ground to get to where you're going to. But the instrument pilot, that's when you're allowed to fly into clouds. Do you understand? Where you don't have any reference to the ground, and then you can use your flight instruments to navigate from point to point. Then you get that one, it's a rating, then you get what we call the commercial license. With the commercial license, you can come to Nigeria and work, but in the US, no. You need to build, because with 250 hours, you could get a commercial license, but you need to build that time to about 1,500 if you were in the US to be able to get onto the airline cockpit.
Oh.
Yes. So a lot of people do pipeline flying. We do flight instruction. I was a flight instructor. And then, so that was the way I built my own hours, by instructing other kids to get to where they wanted to get to. So after that, then you get into the airline cockpit, you start on the right seat. And after you build enough experience there, you have what we call the airline transport pilot license, and then you move to the left seat. The left seat is where you get the full bars, the 4 bars. And that's when you get called captain.
So the left seat is the seat.
Yes, yes.
Ah, beautiful.
Fantastic. And we must commend you for what you do, just not flying alone, but seeing how many people can join you in that cockpit from the streets. That's quite vital. It's commendable. Thank you.
Thank you.
Captain Idris Abdulkareem is a pilot and CEO inspiring success in Generation Next, joining us right here to inspire us. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right, just before we wrap up the show, let's bring you some things that are developing in Rivers State. You know, the Rivers is always an interesting scenario. So, yeah, those are pictures, live pictures of some pictures coming in from Port Harcourt, the Rivers State capital. That is an ongoing, some kind of march or protest now in support of the emergency rule in Rivers State, carried out by a women's group. So that's the best of our understanding from our correspondent, letting us know that this is in support of the state of emergency being carried out. It is organized by a women's group in Port Harcourt, the Rivers State capital.
Very interesting, this protest. They're all wearing white.
Yeah.
They're all clad in white outfit with placards. And it's quite interesting to see that this particular protest is in support of the state of emergency. And it's by a women group. We'll get more details. They're currently marching from the Garrison flyover to the Isaac Borough Park. So, gentlemen, that is from Rivers State.
All right, so Rivers women in support of the state of emergency. Rivers is always an interesting place to look out for all the time.
Yeah, we'll still talk about the economy of mobilization.
I leave that to you. You are the king of the economy of mobilization.
Because there are different motivations. Some for the passion of it. Perhaps that's what the women are about. For some others, it's for some other reasons. But we'll get more details for you.
All right, that's it on the program. Thank you so much. That's how we'll get started for the week. I'm Jeffrey Ozama. Bye-bye.
I'd like to thank you so much for flying with us right here on the morning brief. The weather is clear. Sunrise Daily is next. I'm Kayode Okikiolu. Have a great day.